Welcome back, guys. How are you? I'm so glad to see you guys back here this week. I'm Gabrielle Victoria. Happy Sip+Tip Tuesday, everybody. I am so excited. Last week, we had a very serious conversation about racism in America. And so I hope that conversation was fruitful. It produced some really good dialogue and some communication between you and maybe some non-Black allies. I hope that it was helpful. But this week, I want to have some fun. I want to be lighthearted, and I want to just be me. Can I be me? Okay. So welcome to Sip+Tip Tuesday, where I give you helpful sound tips and a few tasty sips, okay? I think I just made that up, but I like it. So here we go. This sip of the week is adult, okay? We have a little wine, a little Fruitscato, and it's in a glass that I think encompasses how I'm feeling right now. Happier by the hour. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Okay. Happier by the hour. And today's tips are going to coincide with that, because when we abide by these tips, I guarantee we will be happier by the hour. So get your favorite wine, get your favorite Moscato, Riesling. I like sweet wines, if you don't know. So this is a really fruity, sweet wine. It's a strawberry-infused Moscato, Fruitscato by Barefoot. It is so tasty. Very light, so it's not heavy, but it's just tasty. You enjoy it as it goes down. You feel a little grown, okay? So that's the sip of the week, Moscato. This week's tip is on boundaries. Now, we've all heard that word. We know what boundaries are. We set them, we know them, we abide by them. Life is pretty much centered around boundaries in every facet of our lives. But I'm going to refer to personal boundaries. And that goes in relationships, friendships, family, church, work, any type of business, partnership. You need to set boundaries. And you have to be able to honor other people's boundaries, but also know how to honor yourself and the boundaries that you set. Because the ultimate goal of a boundary is so that we can experience and enjoy, keyword enjoy, the healthy relationships that we have around us. And you can only do that by understanding what matters to you, why it matters to you, articulating that to the other person, listening to them to understand what matters to them and why, and then being able to abide and honor that in the terms of your relationship. So boundaries are super duper important. It allows us to have parameters. Don't think of it as a wall that blocks you off. It's literally just parameters of how we govern ourselves in terms of other people. So I'm excited to talk about boundaries today. It is something that I have personally made a dedication to myself to be better at and to set. So I want to get right into it. Tip number one for boundaries is to determine them. No brainer, right? Before you can express and articulate to someone else, you need to determine, understand, figure out the what and the why for yourself. You have to know where you stand. Knowing where you stand stems from taking the moments to realize what you value, what matters to you, what are you sensitive about, what gets your feathers ruffled, what makes you feel appreciated, heard, valued, respected, what makes you feel engaged. And those are the things that you can either write them down. I'm good for writing something down in my little notepad on my phone, or just taking a moment in the shower or in the bathroom or in the car and think about those things. Determine what your boundaries are. One of my boundaries for my relationships is I never ever, whether we're joking or not, want to be called out of my name. I don't use the B word or the H word. And those boundaries allow me to govern myself in a way that I feel honored and I can keep my self-dignity intact. But I never want the person to ever feel comfortable enough to call me outside of my name. And I don't ever do that to them as well. So that's one of my boundaries that I had to determine for myself. I have a few others, but tip number one is determine and know where you stand. Figure out your boundary, okay? Tip number two, now you can define your boundary. Now, defining your boundary is essentially being direct, articulating, expressing. This is now when you can have the conversation where you can tell that person, hey, This is what I expect. This is what I allow. This is what I can accommodate. And this is what I will tolerate. Those are very important words. What you expect, what you allow, what you accommodate, and what you tolerate. Being direct and defining those terms within the relationship will set the tone for the rest of the duration. Now, granted, you give grace and you extend people mercy because everyone was raised differently, has different experiences, and has different perspectives on how things should go. But when you define those and lay them out up front, it gives people an opportunity to sign up or dip out. You know what you're getting into. You know what I expect of you. Here's what I'm willing to accept and allow. Here's what I can accommodate. Here's what I'm okay with. But here's what I won't tolerate. And it's okay. I know personally for me, I am accommodator. Accommodators Anonymous, stand up. Because I value my relationships and I am such a giver. I tend to accommodate people's behavior. And I may speak up, I may make a demand, and I may question, well, why did you speak to me that way? Or I don't understand this, or don't speak to me this way. But making a demand and asking a question are not setting boundaries. Setting boundaries says, this is what I expect of you. This is what I will allow from you. This is what I'm willing to accommodate, but this is where I draw the line, and this is what I will not tolerate. I have to do better with that myself, but just speaking from friends and families and church relationships and work relationships, it's imperative to do that in all of those different sectors. Miss Simmons, my 4th grade teacher, I want to say, she told us, you teach me how to treat you. And essentially what that meant was, based on how you treat yourself, the ground rules that you've laid and abide for yourself, that shows me what I can do to you. That shows me how I can treat you. How you talk to yourself and how you talk to others shows me how I can talk to you. And so setting boundaries is absolutely that. You teaching someone how to treat you. And there's nothing wrong with that. I had a shyness about it. I was almost intimidated to be direct about what it is that I expected of someone, what it is I required out of my friendships and relationships, and what I required out of my family members. But being direct is an act of love, because that facilitates a conversation, and there may be things that they learn about you that they didn't know, that you learn about them that you didn't know, and it garners greater understanding. And it allows you guys to have the opportunity to now honor each other at a different level. And that's so important, guys. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is, after you've determined your boundaries and you've defined your boundaries, now you need to develop action and consequences for when those boundaries are violated. As we know, change and setting boundaries is not people's best friend. Especially if they've been used to operating a certain way for an extended amount of time. It is hard for you now to set a boundary without them wanting to buck it. However, in order for you to facilitate and allow that long-term change for that boundary so that you feel honored and that you preserve that self-dignity, preserve a sense of self-worth, determine what action you're going to take if that boundary is violated. What consequences will you enforce if someone crosses that line? Now, this sounds a lot like parenting someone, right? Why are we parenting adults? But no, it's positive and negative reinforcement. When my boundaries are respected and honored, I'm vocal. Thank you for that. I love that. I appreciate that. That's awesome. That's exactly what I needed. Oh my goodness. But when someone violates, you have to keep that same energy, or else they'll realize that this is the boundary that I can push. This is something that I can cross. And then you'll find yourself feeling dishonored and feeling unappreciated and disvalued. So determine what actions, if any, you want and need to take to reinforce those boundaries. If you want to stay in connection with me, this is how we need to operate. The moment you call me out of my name, do not expect to speak with me again. It may not be that extreme, but as an example, there has to be something that you put in place that says, no, 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 we need to revisit because this is crossing my boundary. I don't feel comfortable anymore. So guys, I hope that this is just a very brief breakdown of boundaries. It is very broad. And obviously different relationships calls for different ways to approach boundaries. But you have to know within yourself at the end of the day, what matters to you? What is important to you? How do you want to be treated by the people around you? And if they want to stay in connection with you, how do you articulate that in a way that garners self-respect, honor, and dignity out of everyone involved? And it's so important. It's the only way that you will feel happier by the hour. I promise you. When we feel honored, when we stand up for what it is we believe in, when we have set boundaries in our relationships, it means that we now can experience and enjoy healthy relationships. And who doesn't want to experience and enjoy the people around them? I know I do. So I hope that these tips helped. Thanks again for tuning in. Thank you guys for the loyal fans that always tune in and give me feedback. I want the feedback. Tell me what you want to hear for the next few weeks for tips, ideas, sips. If you have any favorite drinks of yours, send them to me. Send them to me. My email address is iamgabriellevictoria@gmail.com. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video. And I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.